Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. We'll be starting in just a minute. All right, we're excited you've joined us for today's session on boosting your consumer mail campaigns with informed delivery. A few housekeeping details before we get started. This session is being recorded, and you should receive a link to the recording and a PDF of the slides tomorrow by email. Please feel free to share this webinar content with colleagues that could not attend today. A question and answer session will immediately follow the presentation. If you have a question for our speaker, please type it into the questions box in your GoToWebinar panel on the right side of your screen. This webinar is hosted and sponsored by Suttle-Straus. Suttle-Straus was founded in 1910. Over 100 years, our company has built up the equipment and expertise to handle almost any print project. We offer creative design services, web, sheet-fed, and digital printing, wide format printing, direct and transactional mail, a print-on-demand technology for distributed networks, along with kitting and fulfillment. For more information, please visit us on the web at Suttle-Straus.com. Now I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. Carrie Bornitz is a Senior Product Development Specialist with the Product and Innovation team and is the lead program manager for Informed Delivery. Carrie has worked on many major programs at USPS, including the Postal Service's original package scanning product, now known as USPS Tracking. She managed the conversion to the existing electronic record-keeping system for all signature products. She helped build the Click and Ship platform, and she initiated and managed a national inside sales program. Carrie, I'm going to hand it over to you, and you can take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Megan. Appreciate everyone joining us today. Hopefully you can see everything okay there, Megan.
It looks like we're on the slide deck, and we just need to go into presentation mode.
To the presentation mode. Yep.
Perfect.
And I'm just trying to minimize the control panel. Oh, there, I think I got it. There we go. Awesome. Thank you. Welcome again, everybody. Thank you, Megan, for having me today. I'm just going to jump right in. I know we have a bit of time to spend together here. And so I'm going to talk to you today about informed delivery and, again, how informed delivery can boost your response rates to your existing mailings. There we go. So to level set, first of all, it's very important that we understand what informed delivery is, right? So we created it initially, the Postal Service created it initially for a consumer-facing feature that provides users the opportunity to digitally preview their household mail and manage packages that are arriving soon. So hopefully a lot of you on the phone are already signed up for informed delivery. If you're not, that's the best way to see exactly how it works for consumers. And then eventually, when you're signed up for informed delivery, you're going to see as well an interactive campaign at some point in time. You will. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. But it's important to understand the overall concept of what informed delivery is and how it works as a consumer-facing feature. If you have folks that want to sign up, we have the informeddelivery.usps.com URL down below that would take folks to the sign-up page for informed delivery. So informed delivery is very popular. Postal Service very excited to say that we're almost up to 16 million registered users now. We have about 160,000 folks that sign up every single day or every single week for informed delivery. And it's important to note that when on that first slide we talked about what informed delivery is, that as a registered user, you can sign up to either get an email digest, which is mailed to you most every day, right, on days that you're going to get mail. But the other portion of folks are not email enabled, so they go to check on their informed delivery information either via a dashboard, a computer dashboard, or a mobile app. So our email-enabled users are the most engaged users, however, and we'll talk to that a little bit more as we go through the deck. So in relation to, so the left side is really talking about the consumers that we have. On the right-hand side, we're talking about the mailers and brands, mail owners, however you want to state that, versus a mail service provider like Megan and Suttle-Straus is a mail service provider that enables brands or mail owners to, help get their mail into the system and make it pretty and all those things. So we've had mailers conduct these, what's called these interactive campaigns, almost 9,000. I'm sure it's 9,000 today, and our numbers get outdated fairly quickly there, but almost 1,700 brands, different brands, have conducted interactive campaigns. And with our subscribers, those mailers that are conducting these interactive campaigns and attaching this supplemental content to their mail pieces, they're seeing an average email open rate of 64%, which is very high email open rate. So these are really folks that are engaged and are very interested in seeing their mail. So really the key here, what the Postal Service did and why we did it, is because, we need to make sure that hard copy mail remains relevant in a digital world. Nothing really replaces the tactile value of hard copy mail, and I'm sure you've seen in other places, online presentations about the value of using the mail. And informed delivery interactive campaigns just expands the mail moment and creates really a new mail moment through this digital content, these custom images that we're going to talk about today. So some folks kind of like to see this in a more of a process flow structure, kind of helps them understand how it all works. The concept of a consumer signing up, I raise my hand, I sign up. The mail is processed every day like it normally is in our processing operations. And really in the middle part of this process is where we capture those images that are being processed on automated equipment, and we match them to delivery points for consumers. So that's how informed delivery feature is provided at the household level, not by customer name, but at the household level. So if I'm signed up at home, my husband signed up, and my mother-in-law lives with us, we're all signed up for informed delivery, we would all see the informed delivery digest that would show all the mail coming to our home that day. Again, largely letter-size mail and postcards. We do not take pictures of flat-size mail. However, we do offer mailers the ability to conduct these interactive campaigns with flats, so that's important to know. So we match those images to those delivery points in the background, of course, and then generally later that day folks get the mail, but we do say arriving soon in the informed delivery digest. But what's important to understand is that this interactive campaign that we're talking about here is also applied at that middle step. And all of that is based on the Intelligent Mail Barcode that's on the mail piece. So this is where, when I'm having conversation with brands or mail owners versus a mail service provider, such as Suttle-Straus, where I tell the brands and mail owners, you really need to work closely with your mail service provider. Generally speaking, your mail service provider, whether it be a printer, it could be someone that's creating the mail, inducting the mail. There's different groups of folks in the industry that might be the one that places this barcode on the physical mail piece. And there's lots of folks like Suttle-Straus out there that are gearing up on how to do informed delivery campaigns, so they can help you do these interactive campaigns so that you don't need to know the intricacies of what an intelligent mail barcode is, right? So, but it's important. It's key to the entire process of us getting the images to the consumers and also applying these interactive campaigns. And the information in that intelligent mail barcode is critical to that process. And we'll got a little bit more information here that kind of shows why that MID and IMD serial number are important to the process. And the key here is the mailer ID, which again, in some cases could belong to the brand, but in most cases actually belongs usually to the mail service provider. So if Suttle-Straus is doing a mailing for you, they may very well use their mailer ID in the intelligent mail barcode on the pieces, likely because they're facilitating some kind of IMB tracking or tracing for you. And so to pull this all together, they would use their MID on the piece. And then this IMB serial number range is really what's going to define how we apply the campaign and when we apply the campaign. So anyone can submit campaigns, and I will take a break here every once in a while, and Megan, just see if there's any questions to date. But anyone can really submit these interactive campaigns. Again, either the brand, the mail owner, or their mail service provider, being a printer, or someone that's addressing the pieces, the ad agencies, and it's kind of half and half now. In some cases, the mail owners and brands are getting the MID and IMB serial number information that they need from the mail service provider, and they are inputting the campaigns. And in other cases, Megan has indicated that with Suttle-Straus, they would actually input those campaigns for you and even go to the extent of potentially monitoring the post-campaign results as well. All right, I was just checking my notes there. I wanted to make sure everything was good still. We look all right. So, excuse me, lost my clicker. So in relation to who can participate, so most of you, and we're talking to folks, everyone talks about direct mail, and you know, the Postal Service refers to a standard mail or marketing mail. Usually these are things that might be advertisements or user acquisition efforts, cross-sell, upsell. But even folks that are doing transactional mail, right, such as subscription renewals or even utilities, and those types of folks can do interactive campaigns on their mailings. It's not restricted to just standard mail. You can also do it on first-class mail, and in relation to catalogs or magazines or publications, you know, even periodicals can participate in informed delivery interactive campaigns. So, you know, recently we've been talking to more folks on the government side about voter registration campaigns. So there's all kinds of things. So just want to make sure that everyone understands that it's a very broad application here that can
and Carrie, we had
any industry.
We had a question. This can also be used on nonprofit mail for fundraising campaigns?
You bet. You bet. Nonprofit is probably, I think the last numbers I saw is about 13 or 14% of our interactive campaigns are by nonprofit. So they see a great value in being able to present not only, again, we'll talk about how you can create your interactive campaigns, but you know, I just pulled together some reports for one of our clients, and we've presented over 10 million digital images of his mail to informed delivery subscribers and generated over 30,000 click-throughs for them for no additional postage fees, right? So any class of mail, the key is that it has to be automation compatible, has to have an Intelligent Mail Barcode on it. So you might have heard and even talked with Megan before about every door direct mail, which is a saturation mailing, right, where the carrier takes that mail and literally gives every person on that mailing route that piece of mail. It's not addressed. It doesn't have an Intelligent Mail Barcode on it. So that type of mail doesn't apply, but your other automated types of mail do apply. And then there's really lots of different reasons for mailers and mail service providers to use informed delivery interactive campaigns. You might have an A/B test. We'll again talk about that a little bit more. Maybe it's something that you're just promoting your brand or product awareness, some type of affiliate marketing. If you have a piece of mail, I like to use my example that, you know, my utility company sends me something out. I think Earth Day is coming up in April, right? So traditionally my electric or my gas company will send something out, and they might say, oh, you know, we're going to offer you a free light bulb, you know, to switch to the new energy efficient light bulbs. And in the mail piece, they would give you a website where you might go and order it, or maybe take it in store, or whatever it is. That same, you know, type of message could be relayed in that informed delivery interactive campaign, saying, click here to get a free light bulb, you know, from your local electric co-op. So lots of different reasons in order to do campaigns, probably some here, you know, that we haven't even covered. And then really the last, one of the key pieces here is that why are folks doing these informed delivery interactive campaigns? And you saw me talk earlier about the email open rate. You know, even recently when I talked about general email open rates, you know, I think they're published online, different folks publish them, but it might be around 20%. It kind of varies based on industry. Of course, that depends if you're doing a loyalty mailing versus a user acquisition email. But at 64% email open rates that have remained fairly steady over the course of, you know, many years that we've both tested and now implemented this feature for consumers, that stays pretty high. And then you're getting these multiple impressions from a single mail piece. So your mail piece just kind of gets a new life in relation to the digital view of it. And keep in mind that it, again, is everyone here on the call, I know for a fact, is you're either the mailbox CEO, right? You either, when you get home first or whatever, but you get the mail out of the mailbox, or someone else in your household does. And if you're not the person to get the mail out of the mailbox, there may be things that don't get to you, right? Or as the mailbox CEO, you know, my example is, you know, let's say my husband just went out and spent $300 at Home Depot last month, and when I see the Home Depot flyer coming to my house this month, I'm like, no, I'm not going to give him that because, you know, he spent too much last month. Now, of course, as a Postal Service employee, I wouldn't do that, but some people do. So the joy of it is, we always tell people, if you're the mailbox CEO, you're busted. If you've been taking mail and you know, dispositioning it without giving it to the folks that are getting it, you're busted. But from the mailer standpoint, it's a great thing because everybody in the household that signed up for informed delivery has visibility into those pieces of mail, at least that digital image. And then if you create an interactive campaign, you not only let them see that piece of mail, but you also have the ability to let them interact with it even before they get it in their hands. So if they're on travel, if they're not first to the mailbox, if they're, you know, we get blizzards here and floods and all of this stuff in the Midwest, there's lots of reasons. And so it just extends that mail moment in a, you know, an exciting way. So, and then driving consumer response, you know, the concept of really reaching consumers digitally by knowing their physical address, right? That's not been able to really do that before, per se, tying an email to a physical address, which the Postal Service is doing for you when you do an interactive campaign when you're in the mail. And then, of course, the whole idea is that more impressions beget more conversions, right? So whatever ratios you use for how many impressions you need to get a conversion, the the obvious potential is an increase on your ROI, whatever your ROI spend is. And then the last item here is pretty important too, because we have post-campaign reports for informed delivery participants, and they allow you to see more detail into what happened with your mail piece and what informed delivery subscribers was it presented to, did they click on it, did they open it. Some of those things are more telling than what we've been able to provide in the past against just a direct mail piece by itself. So I was going to pause there, Megan, and see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, I'm going to kind of get more into the nitty-gritty about, how to create a campaign. But I'll pause there and see if there's any other questions.
Yeah, we've got a question here from Carrie. She says, how do people get consumers to sign up for informed delivery? And she said, do you use pearls?
Yeah, well, so there's a few different ways to get folks to sign up for informed delivery. We have intercepts on USPS.com in several different places, and we're implementing more of them in the near future. So, for example, if you go to do an internet change of address, we will offer you the opportunity to sign up for informed delivery. In our holiday mailing that we did last fall, we actually provided an invitation code to homes, and that up to 5 users in the household could use that invitation code to sign up for informed delivery. We have a mailing that's going on right now that's hitting this week. I think it's only 1 million or so pieces, but going out to households that we know where they don't have informed delivery, promoting signing up for informed delivery. We have our sales employees engaged in signing up folks for informed delivery. We have our postmasters and our field offices engaged in signing up. They have an Inform 5 program. So all of that kind of contributes to that number of getting 160-some thousand people a week to sign up. In other cases, we have more peaks. Our goal by the end of this FY is 20 million consumers, which we're on track to meet that. And our longer-term goal is 40 million, which is a lofty goal. That's probably 1/3 of every eligible household that's out there. But in relation to, so we use an invitation code, basically, I guess, to summarize it. That's associated with the address for the home for our user acquisition efforts.
Yeah, and I'll just add, I think anybody on this webinar could be their own neighborhood advocate for informed delivery. I know on my neighborhood Facebook page, everybody's been talking about porch pirates and people stealing packages off their porch. And so I posted, hey, I'm an informed delivery subscriber, and it tells me what's coming in my mail every day, so I can tell if something's been taken. And so I think word of mouth is really a great recruiting way to get people in your own area if you're doing local marketing.
And we also do have, Megan, we have a co-marketing guide that we created, because there's several brands, again, that have expressed interest in promoting informed delivery to either their employees or their customers. And because they see the value, right, in having informed delivery subscribers. So it's a voluntary co-marketing, that the Postal Service provides either print or digital assets that can be used if folks want to use them in, mailing you're sending out, or put it on your website or whatever. Lots of different ways to help get more users.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I'm going to go into the steps here, and we kind of break these down into 7 steps. The first thing really to understand, and some of these steps you could do in in different order, like the first 5, really, four steps you can kind of put in a different order, but there's a method to my madness as to why we suggest this path. But the key point to know is that information that's already used for your mailing, right, when you create your mail piece, is also used for your interactive campaign. You just need a few additional items that are required. And these are required regardless of the submission method. So we're going to talk about, there's 2 submission methods for interactive campaigns. But either way, you still need your brand display name, right? So ABC Company, this is what shows in the from field on those interactive campaigns. So we have the grayscale piece of mail, we have your little ride-along image, which again is kind of like a little banner ad. And then beside that it says from ABC Company, and then there's a learn more link, which is also a static link, and we'll talk about how that ties to your URL. You need a campaign title and a code. Now again, Megan and Suttle-Straus would be able to find that information for you, right? Usually when you're doing a mailing, I've found in the industry that it's called something, right? Spring Fling, user acquisition effort for March of 2018, you know, pretty soon it'll be Mother's Day, Father's Day things, graduation, whatever it is. So the brand display name and the title can be the same for every campaign you run if you wanted to. But more common is, of course, your brand display name would always be consistent. You might have a title that would say, tax day for 2019. And then maybe you have multiple campaigns that you're running, that you're doing an A/B test, or you're mailing to different types of, if you're doing a loyalty mailing. So you might have a campaign code that includes the date of your campaign and then maybe an underscore ABCD or something like that. It's a 30-digit field, basically. Then your start and end dates. Again, we're going to talk to these and how you would calculate what your start and end dates are. And then remember, we already talked about that mailer ID, that mid on piece, and your IMD serial number range. We also asked for the mail piece shape. Is it a letter? Is it a postcard? Is it a larger catalog, a flat magazine? And then the supplemental content, which is that little ride-along image, your target URL, and then the representative image, which is, again, required for if you're doing flat size mail, but it's optional for letters and postcards. We'll talk a little bit to the results for those. So this is key. These, 9 items, you got these 9 different items, possibly 10 different items, and a lot of them you already have as part of your mailing if you're doing automation compatible mailings. So the submission methods, there's 2 self-serve submission methods, and one is called the Mailer Campaign Portal, and one is called Postal One. Now, some of you may have delved in the Postal One world already. If you don't and haven't, you're probably like me, that you probably don't want to. It's a very complicated system, but it is the other submission method. And again, Megan and her team have, some opportunities to support you on campaign submissions through either of these methods. So today, 93% of all interactive campaigns are entered in the Mailer Campaign Portal today. It's a very intimate experience. You take those campaign elements that we just discussed, and you literally you type in your brand display name. You either type in, or you can copy and paste if you have some kind of file for your campaign title and your code. You pick a little calendar to select your start and end dates, right? So it's a very intimate experience. It's good if you're going to be doing your first campaign. We always suggest you use the portal. But if you're doing fewer campaigns with the same supplemental content, a lower volume of campaigns, then the Mailer Campaign Portal would be more suited. And for Postal One, again, it's for, there's certainly folks that are using the mailer campaign portal that are still inputting hundreds of campaigns. They haven't gone to Postal One yet, which is the electronic submission method. But that's largely just because programming, is required to get the Postal One files ready to accept informed delivery interactive campaigns. So there's a little bit of programming that needs to be done there. So most folks, that's why we start with this method, or this step, is because if you wanted to do an interactive campaign, let's say that you printed a mailing and it's going to drop on Friday. If you could gather your campaign elements, you literally could go into the mailer campaign portal and input a campaign by noon tomorrow, and it would start on Friday if you wanted it to start on Friday. With Postal One, if you don't have that programming done, you're going to need a couple of weeks of lead time to either get that programming done within your organization or work with your mail service provider to make sure that they've have completed that programming. And there's, I think handfuls of folks that actually control kind of the files that are in Postal One. So the next part is very important, right? That when you're starting to talk about your campaign and your mailing campaign in general, right, you're already looking at the fact that are you doing a single mailing, and are you applying that same mailing to all 15,000 people on your mailing list? For example, I just pick a number, usually smaller, and stick with it. But are you going to apply all the same campaign, the same interactive campaign as well? Or do you want to try some different treatments for different groups of customers? And so that's what's key, and what we're trying to convey here in this slide is that if you have a mailing list and you're doing a single mailing, 15,000 pieces, you want all the same campaign applied to all customers, and the mailer ID that you're using is unique and not being used on any other mailings during the same time that your campaign is running. Then you can apply a campaign at the mid-level. Pretty uncommon. You can see 97% of all campaigns are conducted at what we call the IMD serialized level. And the reason for that is because MIDs are generally shared, either within an organization, or more commonly, the MID belongs to the mail service provider. And again, we talked about why they would use that mailer ID in that Intelligent Mail Barcode. So this example shows that for IMB serialized, I could apply different interactive campaigns to groups of customers, and I could have either, if you look at it, an ABC group, a red, green, blue group, 1, 2, 3 group, whatever, however you want to look at it, it's correlating different groups of customers. So that's important to understand up front, because when you get to the next step is, I'll go through these first. The same thing, just a different illustration of showing at the mid-level, I could apply one campaign, interactive campaign, to all of the mail pieces, or if I do the mid and IMB serial number range, then I could group them into individual groups of customers. And the key reason for talking about that is step 2, your segregation and sortation of your mailing list, is because, again, we need to be able to get these unique and sequential Intelligent Mail Barcode serial number ranges in order to conduct your campaigns. So you have to sort your list first. So if, again, you had 15,000 customers and you wanted to give them what I'm calling the red, blue, or the green treatment, right? You'd have to sort that list up front and print them in that order, and you would get 3 unique IMB serial number ranges to input for your campaign. Now, keep in mind that your campaign start and end dates would likely be the same for all of those, right? Your brand display name is going to be the same. Your campaign title is going to be the same. Your code would be different because it has to be unique. you know, your shape is probably going to all be the same, but your mid would probably all be the same, but your IMB start and end serial numbers would be different. And in this case, you would end up creating 3 different interactive campaigns. And again, maybe they still take the customer to the same URL or they don't. All kinds of options out there, right? But I cannot stress enough, this is where people get hung up the most, is that they don't understand that the mailer ID is, again, oftentimes shared, that it has to be contained in the Intelligent Mail Barcode on the piece, and that you really need to look at your list management and segregation up front prior to printing or assigning those IMBs. And again, this is where Megan and team come in to, you know, help folks do this and understand this better. So for the rest of us, it's simpler. Okay, so I'm going to pause there because I know that's complicated stuff, a bit complicated in the sense of the IMBs and all of that, but I think everyone always kind of gets the whole concept of a mailing list and you know, potentially doing segregation if you want to do different types of even mail piece content. So I'll see if there's any questions there, Megan.
Yeah, Carrie, is there a limit to the number of segments or how small a customer group can be? Really, no. You have to have your start and end cannot be the same. We do not support personalized level campaigns yet. You'll see that I talked about MID and IMB serialized. I think hopefully we'll get to the concept of being able to support pearls in sometime in calendar year 2020. So, you know, if you're doing, again, a 15,000 piece mailing, you know, it's up to you if you'd want to break it into 1,000 campaigns. You could certainly do that, but that's, you know, mailer campaign portal would be very onerous to add them in that way. So then Postal One you could look at to do that. So you can break them down into pretty small groups. We, you know, just can't support individual campaigns at this point in time. That's just one IMB serial number, basically. And then, you know, you could do a 10 million piece mailing and still enter the campaign in the mailer campaign portal. It's not based on the volume of mail. It's more so the volume of campaigns, interactive campaigns that you apply to your mailing. I guess it ends up how much work you want to do to make 50 different campaigns or 10 or 2, right?
Exactly. Yep. And in the portal, we do have a template feature where you can create a template. And so again, if you're doing even 3 campaigns, like in this example, you create the first one, you save the template, and then in the next one, you change your code, you change your IMB serial number range, and maybe you change your, you know, supplemental content. But that's the template is there to assist with that. And campaign entry in the portal, literally, you know, I can do it in like probably 45 seconds. You know, we say you can get it done in under a couple of minutes. The key is having all of your data elements ready to enter. That's the key point, is just to have it all ready and then go in and enter the campaign. We'll talk about the submission time. Yeah, and Joseph submitted a question. He says, if you are doing postal sorting and have split your messaging across multiple lists, are those serial numbers, while unique to their groups, co-sorted? Yeah, so that's a good question, because we do get a lot of that, you know, a lot of those requests, and where folks are so for example, you take your mailing list of 15,000 people, and what you would normally do is you would break it down into zip code order, right? Because that's how you're going to get your deepest postage discounts. So what needs to happen here is you need to be able, and you know, Megan, this would be for you and your team, to be able to facilitate the sorting of those lists and the assignment of those IMBs, you know, prior to the whatever pre-sort option, you know, function takes place after printing. So that's the key. But there are, you know, folks out there that are taking, they break their list down, they get these unique IMD serial number ranges, and then they still give it back to a pre-sorter, you know, that ultimately puts it in zip code buckets to get those deeper postage discounts. But that would certainly be something like you at Suttle-Straus would help facilitate with, you know, what you do, or, you know, other mail service providers.
Yeah, just leaving the pre-sort to the last step, so you have the IMBs in sequential order for the campaign.
Yep. And I've had some folks that assign an IMB range, you know, 2 weeks before they even print them. So there's all kinds of variations out there. So there's no really one cookie cutter that I've seen, but there are ways to do it, keeping that pre-sort to the last step.
That's all the questions we have for now.
Okay, good. So now, again, so those first 3 steps, you know, do you have to do them in that exact order? No, but those 3 steps are critical. At step 4, you're looking at your supplemental content. Now, again, could you be doing that, have someone on your team doing that at the same time that someone else is doing steps 2 and 3? Yes. But, you know, and as part of mail piece design and creation, where things are going to go to ultimately is when folks are having their mail piece created and the design for their mail piece and their corresponding website information and all of that created. That's, you know, those are the folks that you're going to ask to create your ride-along image. That's what we call this little image that sits either below the grayscale mail piece, which is kind of a little banner ad, but we call it a ride-along image. And so that's required. You have to have the ride-along image, and you have to have a URL in order to do an interactive campaign. Those are the bare minimums. And then if you're doing, again, a campaign on a flat size piece of mail, like a catalog or a magazine, you have to provide that representative image. And I do have some stats here. Yeah, so I'll just go to this slide that talks to the performance of these 2 different types of campaigns. So on the left is what we call the basic campaign, where you just have the ride-along image and the URL. On the right, we have what we call the dual campaign, where you include the representative image plus the ride-along image and the URL. Overall, if you look at campaigns like over the past, you know, it was like from June 2018 to December 2018, regardless of the industry type or the call to action or the offer, I just took all my numbers and said, okay, what does it look like for click-through rates? You know, we see a higher click-through rate overall on basic campaigns. And most people go, when we say that, because everyone's thinking that you're creating these fabulous multicolor mail pieces, you want that to really pop. You know, keep in mind that your interactive campaigns do float to the top of the email digest and the dashboard, regardless of whether it's a basic or a dual campaign. So just by doing an interactive campaign, you're already assuring yourself that your mail piece is going to float to the top of the digest. So if I get 8 pieces of mail today and one has a campaign, it's all random order placement except for those campaigns float to the top. If there's more than 1 campaign, if there's 2 in a digest for a customer, those are randomly placed today. But that is a monetization opportunity for the Postal Service in the future, right? So we've talked before about getting these additional impressions for no additional postage costs. We do have some opportunity for monetizing some additional features in the future. The key reason I think why the basic campaigns perform better in overall is just because consumers sign up for informed delivery because they want to see their mail. You got to keep that in mind, right? They're not signing up to get, you know, more spam or whatever. They're very concerned about that, especially coming from the Postal Service, trusted government agency. So that's part of it. But again, you got to consider that, you know, we might have the campaigns that they offer might be a better offer, you know, as if you're talking about a retail buy one, get one that anyone in the household could take advantage of, versus a credit card offer, for example, that is unique just to one person in the household. So you got to, consider those things when you're looking at that. My big thing is I just tell everybody to test both and see what works best for your mailings. You can take that same scenario where we're talking about those 15,000 customers, and if all you want to do is do a basic versus a dual campaign, you just basically divide that list in half and say 7,500 are going to get a basic campaign, and 7,500 we're going to show the dual campaign and see which one performs better. Marketing 101 calls, a lot of A/B testing. So we talked about, so I just want to go back to this slide with the creative for the ride-along image. We have lots of information on our mailer website that talks about the image sizes and the specs, and that they have to be RGB, those types of things. So there are specifications that you need to follow to create those images. Okay, so I'm going to pause there again just to see if anyone has any questions about that, because that's kind of another little part there that's simple to see if anyone has questions on.
Nope, but I will say at Suttle-Straus we've created a little checklist for these items with the specs that we give to our customers when they want to do an informed delivery campaign, so they can check off that they've done all these steps. So.
Sure. Okay, good. So then your campaign timeline is really all based on where your mail is being inducted, the class of mail, and where it's going, right? So if I'm mailing something in California, it's a first class piece of mail, and I drop it in California, and it's only going to people in California. Either way, I would expect a 3-day, maybe 5-day for delivery for that piece. So it's very important to understand when your mail is going to drop and when your first expected in-home date is. It's okay to start your campaign a couple days early, just in case. I've seen instances where someone's like, oh, I got the piece of mail, I seated myself, and I didn't see the campaign, and I'll go look it up and say, well, your campaign starts tomorrow, and you got your piece of mail today, so you missed your start date. So again, this is where you're going to stay, holding hands very closely with Suttle-Straus in relation to knowing when those dates are. And then you really don't want to miss your end date. Again, if you're looking at this scenario where I start my campaign on the 22nd, I end it on the 28th, and all of a sudden something, I put my campaign in by noon on the 21st, to start on the 22nd, and then I get a message that afternoon saying, oh, the mail isn't going to be inducted, the press broke down, whatever it is, and it's not going to go out for 3 more days. You're going to want to extend that end date, right? And make sure that you capture as much of the mailing as you can. Usually we see around a 15-day window for interactive campaigns, but we have had mailers that had done campaigns on even more like a continuous mailing, especially if you have a unique mailer ID, that you could just run the campaign against the mail for up to 45 days is how long you can run a campaign for. Keep in mind, though, those intelligent mail barcodes, those numbers that we talked about, right, those get reused after a period of time. So there's reasons why we have this uniqueness and this time period for interactive campaigns and when they apply. So we've done those 5 steps. We talked about our submission method. We talked about the campaign breakdown, how we're breaking down our list. We've talked about our getting and ensuring that we know what the mid on piece is and the IMD serial number range. We talked about developing our supplemental content. We know when our campaign is going to run from start to end, and then we submit it. And you induct the mailing as usual, so your campaign generally, again, needs to be submitted by noon Eastern the day before that it starts. So that's an important deadline to keep in mind. And then whoever submits the information has access to what we call these post-campaign reports and the data in the mailer campaign portal. And again, that submission is, very quick once you get those campaign elements. And then the progress and results to monitor them. I'm going to just share briefly a couple items with you about the post-campaign reports that we provide. There's two types of post-campaign reports. The one that most folks are looking at today is the summary report, which is the high-level report that tells you out of your mailing, how many mail pieces, so this mail pieces column, the fourth column from the left there, tells you how many of the mail pieces in your mailing were presented to informed delivery households. So people will contact me and they'll say, I mailed 100,000 pieces of mail, but you're only showing 10,000 here. Well, that's because we're only reporting on in this report, right? We're only reporting on the ones that went to informed delivery households. And then we tell you how many emails there were, what the emails were opened, what the open rate was, how many click-throughs, and the click-through rate. So this is basically telling you those additional impressions, right? So you got here 10,000 potential additional impressions from informed delivery households. And then your email open rates and your click-through rates give you a little bit more information in relation to activity. And again, keep in mind that our email-enabled users are much more active and engaged than the dashboard users. So in a case like this where I saw, whatever your number of click-throughs, at least 95% of those are going to come from your email-enabled informed delivery subscribers. Don't see as much activity from the other group of folks. Then if you go into your detailed report, this is the report that ultimately you could ingest and, you get to see exactly what we report back the mid-serial, right? So in your detailed report, there's going to be a line of data for every single event. I'm doing that in quotes just like I have on screen, which is called a record type. So this column T is the one that's going to provide you this information. So in a report where I have informed delivery pieces going to 10,000 households, I'm going to have at least 2 record types for every single piece of mail. Usually you're going to have probably 3, 4, or sometimes 5. And what it's going to show you ultimately is the, again, at the household level, when the email, if there was an email sent, it'll say when there was an email. If there was a click-through, it would say when the click happened. It'll say either web or email for the source, and has a lot of detailed data that can be used for other potential omni-channel and cross-marketing purposes. So again, this is where Suttle-Straus and Megan, you guys, if you do the IMB tracking and tracing, you get some of that information. You can really see the life of a mail piece when you tie all this together with the informed delivery interactive campaign information. So I'm just going to leave it here on this slide, see if anyone has any questions on that last little bit there on the reports. I got to throw in kind of marketing 101 stuff, right? That it's still important to send your mailings to the correct target audience, right, to get your best results. Want to make sure that you use a strong call to action and relate it to the content of the mail piece for your supplemental content, like your ride-along image. Click here, shop now, take advantage of this offer today. We talked about segmenting lists and some of those things as well. And then just so you know, we do generally see different results. We have a gap for flats, basically, that we don't see as many results or for campaigns being presented to informed delivery households for flat size mail. So if you did this same mailing for flat size mail, you might see 7,000 pieces of mail, and then the corresponding numbers would go down, but there's a gap just because flats are processed differently, and we're, still working to close that gap.
Yeah, we have a question from Anne that says, are certain areas of the country more heavy in informed delivery enrollment? Or I guess a bigger question of that is, how can someone find out how much penetration would be on their list of recipients?
Sure, yeah, so we do have, and I think the last slide here has the information on our informed delivery subscribership by 5-digit zip code, down to 5-digit zip code. So we have about a 10% saturation across the country now on average, but if you were to go to Houston, for example, you'll see a 15% saturation in Houston, portions of California that have a higher saturation. So it's kind of random, but there are portions of the country that have more saturation than others. And then, Megan, I'm just going to show some of these examples while we're waiting to see if there's any other questions. We did have our Next Generation Campaign Awards which were presented at the 2018 National Postal Forum. You'll find that I'm pretty particular about not sharing out information on interactive campaigns without the mailer's approval, without the brand's approval. So these are all images that we have, rights to use that just show an example of what this company did. So this was AccuZip that did a campaign for talking to students or something about, you're sick of your mail still going to your mom's or whatever it was, cute little catchy image. And then what their ride-along image was, and they see that, is compelling, right, and catchy. This is Hay Needle, has been doing campaigns for a period of time, and this just shows an example of how Hay Needle uses a representative image and then their ride-along image. In some cases, they might have a % offer or something on this, but they're syncing these interactive campaigns to the physical mail piece, showcasing a logo, allowing folks to interact with the brand. Premier IMS is actually another business, a mail service provider. They had a lunch and learn. Even though informed delivery is a consumer-facing feature, even if you're doing a B2B mailing, you would still potentially hit some of informed delivery subscribers that have small office, home office. So that's just another example how they, what we're really showing here is that you have that clear call to action. Click here to register. What are you doing? Have not a lot of content on your ride-along image and really good calls to action. Circusaurus was another one that had, giving away tickets to go to this event that was a dinosaur circus. Very eye-catching, builds excitement, right? Your opportunity to do that. Joanne is another one that has been doing campaigns for a bit, and a lot of times the mailers are not willing, as you can imagine, to share out the results of their specific campaigns. That's why you don't see me saying, oh, Joanne's had this % of click-through and this, how many email opens and everything else. We do share some of that information out at an industry level or on a anonymized level. But what Joanne did share with us is that in their case, one of the little tidbits that we got out of this that they were more willing to share publicly is that 56% of their sessions on their website were brand new visitors. So in this case, they were driving traffic to their website that they hadn't seen before. So just, several examples of how that all works. Again, this is the last slide in the deck here that really talks about our mailer website and where our information resides, the campaign image requirements. You can see, I know it's kind of small on the screen here, but we have this user and household data file. this Excel file, that's the one that will, if you drill down into the file, it will show you how many users there are by 5-digit zip code. And that's updated every week. And then we also have some, customer support. We have lots of technical documents we link to for Postal One. We have some user testimonial videos. There's all kinds of stuff on the website. So that's a good place to visit.
Great. Yeah, we're at the top of the hour, but I have a couple of questions here. If Carrie, if you can stay a little over.
Sure, I'm good.
All right. So Ian asks, if a brand owner is using different mail service providers, can there ever be an overlap in barcode uniqueness that would cause a problem with informed delivery?
Generally not. It all depends on the MID on piece, right? So generally, again, my experience has been with your mail service providers that they are going to be using, their MID on piece. So if you're using 3 different providers, they would have 3 different mailer IDs. Each would have their own. And then, their IMD serial numbers may overlap, but it won't matter because the MID makes it unique. In the case where they're using Ian's mailer ID, right, then basically they would each have, Ian's mailer ID, and then there is I guess a slight possibility that they could potentially overlap those, randomly just happen to be hitting this exact same IMD serial number range. The IMD serial numbers are either 6 digits, which gives you 9,000 or 999,000, or more commonly are the 9-digit serial numbers. So, but we haven't seen that to date, and usually that's because they're using the mail service provider MID on piece, which keeps it unique.
And Joseph asks, how do you physically append the campaign to the outbound list of individuals? It's kind of your magic box behind the scenes.
Yeah, and that all goes back to that Intelligent Mail Barcode, so I'm going to all go back to that one slide, that when we scan a piece of mail in the system, so, we're scanning the mail, and when we see the piece of mail, we look at this Intelligent Mail Barcode and we say, okay, what is the 11-digit delivery point for that individual mail piece? Which household does it go to? And that's like this delivery point information, are like the last 10 or 11 digits, of the Intelligent Mail Barcode. Then we will look at the MID on piece and we'll say, is there a campaign against that MID? And then we'll look in our database and say, yes, there's an interactive campaign. And then we'll say, is it currently active and what level is it at? If it's at the MID level, then we just take the image, that's the one image that's been applied, and we apply it. Or if it's an IMD level, then we literally look at the serial number within the Intelligent Mail Barcode and say, okay, this is serial number 12, and serial number 12 either has a campaign applied, it has campaign red, blue, or green applied, or whatever it is in the background. So it's 100% based on this Intelligent Mail Barcode.
Great.
And then the corresponding campaign elements, right, that you're all entering for that.
Yeah. And one thing I wanted to make sure to mention, you guys have a promotion coming up later this year with informed deliveries. So not only could brands use this technique at no additional postage cost, but it could actually save you postage.
Yeah, exactly. The 2019 promotion for informed delivery runs, I believe, starting September 1st. I think they start taking registration sometime this summer. And I can't remember if it's a 2-cent per piece discount or a 2%. I forget the details on that, but for just doing an interactive campaign, you get that promotional discount applied to all of your mail that's within that campaign, right? So again, if I mail to 15,000 people and on my mailing list and I have 10% of those 1,500 that get the Informed Delivery Interactive campaign, I'm still going to be getting my postage discount on the 15,000 pieces of mail.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank Carrie for that informative presentation. If you have more questions you didn't get a chance to ask, you can email them to me at marketing@Suttle-Straus.com, and I can get back to you. Everyone should watch their email tomorrow for a link to this recorded presentation and a PDF of the slides. If you're looking for a trusted vendor to help guide you through your next print and mailing project, please consider us and request a quote at Suttle-Straus.com. Thanks, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Awesome. Thanks, Megan. Appreciate your time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.